So thanks a lot for joining this session. I've been listening to great talks this morning, and today I'm gonna share our view in terms of implementing data-driven initiatives in steel manufacturing. This is Fabio Iannello from Duferco Group, and today I'm gonna present our transition from bare digitalization to data governance approach and our vision for the steel industry, and I will present some use cases we are currently facing. So, who is Duferco? Duferco is an international company active in areas which are steel manufacturing, which is going to be the topic of today, energy and gas trading, energy retail in Italy, and then we have a maritime shipping and logistics activity that transport worldwide. So it's a quite diversified group with several activity and very rich in terms of opportunities for data initiatives. Today's, as said, we are going to focus on steel production with our company that's called Duferco Travi Profilati, which is a relevant market player in Italy, Europe, and North Africa for steel beams and long products, which are mostly used in constructions, but not only. And the company is facing a very deep technological and digital transformation with a lot of investment in both new equipments, but also towards greener energy transitions to reduce our carbon footprint. As you can imagine, as a company that produces steel, hard manufacturing, I would say, we have several topics that are potentially interested by the use of data. We have production lines, we have application in quality control, application in predictive maintenance, and also sales and marketing initiatives that can benefit from the use of data. The question that you should ask when you in a company, or at least you are called from a company to evaluate their current state, is, are we digitalized somehow? And sometimes, of course, you have companies that not even started collecting data, but most of the time you found out that companies started data collection in several areas. They have huge data storage and vast historical data available, and you have some people in the company that already perform some analysis, but often and most of the time they are niche or dedicated activities from single personnel that perform analysis. Is that enough to implement fancy AI algorithms in your company? Probably not. Of course not, actually. That's only the beginning of a very long journey, right? So whenever you want to start pushing data usage into your company, you have to sit down with domain experts, with business owners. You need to understand their needs. You need to understand together with them the impact on business, for example, in terms of a return of investment. You need to assess the data. You need to double check that the data that the company is collecting are actually relevant for the business problems you want to solve. And of course, you need to keep under control the feasibility and the complexity of potential solutions. And you need to make sure that actually the questions that the business asks are feasible, and the data can solve problem and can help them to improve their daily routine or the business of the company. Very important in this journey is understanding your data. Perform data assessment is very important, and I think as soon as you can, you should do data assessment to avoid finding issues and problems whenever you progress. If you do a proper assessment at the beginning, you start understanding whether the data are complete for the problem you want to solve, whether data is consistent, accurate, whether the integrity is maintained across maybe different storages, whether data is unique, and of course, whether the data is valid. So anyhow, whatever you want to name, you need to have data that is good enough to satisfy the requirements of your data-driven applications, right? And I think sooner or later in your data scientist journey, you understand that you need to face data governance. You need to make sure that people understand the use of data, that data have owners, people that produce data, people that share the data. You need to have the company aware of the data that are available in the company. And of course, whenever you put data available to other people, you need to make sure that the quality of the data is good enough. You have to maintain the quality of the data. Maybe you have to maintain security and accessibility of your data. I think that you have to consider data as a full asset of your company, like conventional equipment that needs maintenance, needs replacement when is needed, and you have to be careful in handling data properly so that your data-driven initiatives can succeed. So that's very important. Regardless data governance, let's say that maybe it's a kind of mid-long-term journey, because it's not easy to perform this cultural change within a company that maybe is not natively digital. You need to sit down with the business and understanding, okay, how do we start with the AI or machine learning or whatever you want to name it. You need to start up, at least that's our vision. You need to think big but start small, right? You need to start with small projects. At least this is our vision. You need to start with small projects that are low complexity, time bounded in terms of time to deliver some solutions, and maybe this small project or proof of concept, they are maybe not impacting much the business in terms of return of investment or whatever KPI you want to monitor, but at least gives you the possibility to start up data adoption in your company. And especially, you need to build up credibility in the company. You need to have people starting understanding the use of data for their business needs. And of course, you need to have data science team building up their credibility. It is often the case that when you enter a company that is not natively digital, you always face people that are quite skeptical in using data, or in having data suggesting them what to do, because they have been doing that work for the last 20 years. So they are quite skeptical to adopt new techniques. So using POCs or small projects as a starting point will really help you in building up trust and confidence in the usage of data. And of course, as POCs or small project progress, and some of them will succeed, of course, maybe not them all, you can move towards a midterm project, more complex, more impact on business, long-term project, even more complex and even more impact on the business. In the meantime, you don't have to forget that economics is not the only driver for digital transformation. And sometimes you might start up data-driven initiatives that are simply too strategic to not be done. So even if you don't have a clear understanding of the business impact when you start them, they are too important. For example, doing data catalog or improving data accessibility, data infrastructure, and so on. Maybe they don't have an immediate return, but they will have an impact on future initiatives. So you really have to also consider those projects that are strategic for the future of the data in your company. Let's look at some examples that we are working in our steel manufacturing plant. So basically, we produce steel from recycled metal scrap, which means metal scrap coming from automotive or from constructions or any other place where you have metal scrap. So basically this scrap is melted down, and then you have few processes that refine the steel, and you end up with the final products that you need, right? Of course, you have different categories of scrap. Each of those have different prices, different physical and chemical properties. So depending on the steel quality and steel type that you need to produce, you have to use a different mix of your scrap materials. And as you can imagine, as a company that transform raw materials, scrap, into final products, the scrap cost is one of our main sheet. So it's a quite important that you optimize the usage of scrap in order to guarantee the quality of the product that you need to produce, but not much, right? So in that sense, we basically started up a project where basically we want to optimize the cost and the entire production process, and having them, building models to in order to optimize cost and production process. This is a project very interesting from data science perspective, but also quite complicated in the sense that it involves several departments like IT for data collection, data storage, and so on. We have purchasing department that is buying raw materials, and it has their forecast for the materials and price fluctuation and so on. And in general, we also collaborate with the personnel working in the factory, like scrapyard operators, furnace operators, and so on. So this project involves many people, but as said before, we decided to not try to solve all the issue or doing all the optimization at the same time, but we wanted to start from small pieces and building up our credibility as a data scientist providing solutions to the steel production, right? Very interesting. We are collecting some good results. And the other common problem, I would say, in manufacturing is quality control. Of course, as a producer or final products, we need to check our product and make sure that the quality is good enough for the customer. Sometimes, not too often, fortunately, but sometimes you got issues like you have these steel beams that may have cracks or pinholes or physical deformation or things like that. And then we have to, currently, basically, we have people visually inspecting or manually inspecting with sensing technology, whether the product are satisfying the quality requirements for that particular steel. But of course, we would like to establish data-driven help for them to either predict or detect quality defects to avoid shipping defected materials, which of course is not good for customers, and it's not good for economical reasons, right? This is a quite complex project from data perspective, because as you can imagine, we have several equipments in the steel production. And we have thousands of sensors per production lines. Some of them are not even in the same physical location because the production of a final product maybe also go to different plants. So we have a kind of several thousands of sensors plus complex geographical locations. But we have the good things is that we have a large historical database of good products, but also with some defects that we can use to train our models. But one of the most important part of this project is, of course, making sure that the data of the sensors and the data for the products are properly cataloged. We need to make sure that each sensors tell us at a specific time which product passed by it at that time. And also we need to know the genealogy because with this complex sensors deployment scattered around our plants, we need to know which sensor is placed where and which sensor is coming after another and so on and so forth. So we call it genealogy. And this is a quite important part of this task to make sure that the data that you analyze or your data scientists analyze are accurate and consistent with the production process. Sometimes, of course, you discover that your data from the sensor that you have already installed or people installed in previous years are enough for detecting some quality issue, but sometimes you just need additional sensing technology, and this is also a part of the process for us to learn and to discover scouting technology that can help us even improving our quality control process in the company. So I would say that in general, digital transformation is a very complex journey and a cultural change, especially for companies that are not natively digital. My suggestion, at least our approach, is to opportunistically select data-driven initiatives within your company by finding domain experts or business problems that can be suited for developing a small project or POCs just to start up and speed up the adoption of data, and also to build confidence and credibility in data usage within the company. And on the mid long term, of course, you need to define a clear data strategy and data governance. Very important to share the culture of data within a company if you want to make data one of the main drivers of the decisions within your company. And of course, very important is to educate people. You need to have people understanding the impact of data, how they can use in their daily task, and also the impact that they can have on the data production, for example. So that's conclude my presentation. So I'm more than happy to answer questions.